Hello and welcome to Real People, Real Business, the podcast. My name is Izu Wachuka. I'm your host on the podcast. If you don't already know, Real People, Real Business is about bringing either experts who help small businesses and entrepreneurs succeed by sharing their advice and their wisdom within their industry and expertise, or we bring on entrepreneurs who have gone through their own entrepreneurship journey. They've had failures, they've had successes, and they come onto the podcast to tell us their own story. On today's episode, which is our first episode for the year, we have a very lovely gentleman here who's doing amazing things around the world, especially in the food market for Africa. He's an expert. He's the CEO and founder of Ojamia, which is an online marketplace. And his expertise is in food distribution using technology. He's worked in countries such as Africa or continent of Africa, the Middle East, and Europe. Tim Olatoke, welcome to Real People, Real Business.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here today.
Fantastic. So, Tim, I want to get to know your story with your venture Ojamia, right? Which is a food marketplace which you've built from the ground to help African business and entrepreneurs bring their products to the world. But before we go into that, I want to know a little bit more about you. When I look at your profile, you started out as a tech engineer. You worked for some of the biggest multinational telecoms company and tech companies in the world, such as BT, Huawei, I think Vodafone. And you were like an engineer. You were like the guy that built things. So, and now you're in food distribution. But did you start out wanting to be, a tech engineer? Is that where what you've always wanted to do?
Actually, I started off just being myself, trying to innovate things and making technology work for us and improve lives. That's always been my baseline. Naturally graduated into the field of using technology, implementing solutions and software systems. Yeah. Worked for several multinationals, especially in the telco world, and gradually just found myself building a food website.
Okay, fantastic. Because I also know that you come from a family of academics. Your dad was an electrical engineer. Apparently you have like 3 or 4 engineers in your family. Was that what influenced you to say, okay, I'm going to go down the engineering route?
Obviously, that's absolutely correct. My dad was an electrical engineer and even got his PhD at the age of 72. I've always grown up around engineers trying to make something or resolve issues. So from way back when I was a little child, I was always trying to invent something or create something new. That's always been my hobby, and that's how I spend my pastime. So it was just natural for me that as soon as I finished my first degree as an electrical engineer, I gave that to my dad. At that time, I was really focused on computers, and I'd already enrolled myself for a lot of programming classes like CBOL, Fortran, DBase4. Yeah. Because I was always looking at, okay, there's this new tool. How can I use it to improve my life and improve the lives of others?
Okay. Yeah, so you're a real tech coder kind of,
out of curiosity. So I hold a piece of tech and I'm just trying to figure out how best can I use this to solve issues.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, fantastic. That's really good. I mean, and that's where tech does its magic. It's like it's what accelerates the solution of a problem, and having that mindset to always be problem solving, you can never go wrong. So at some point, a tech guy, an engineer, someone who's used to being in the dark room coding and building, food came into, it's like there's 2 different worlds here. One is so technical and one is so organic. So food came into it, and you've gone on this journey of creating Ojamia, which is run out of the UAE. Can you tell me a little bit more about Ojamia and the journey that got you to building this food marketplace? And we're talking organic foods, not restaurants, ready-made meals.
So for me, it was all naturally evolved in the sense that I went from building applications such as knowledge-based management systems, ERPs, you name it, CRMs and all of that for these multinational call centers and resolving customer solutions, customer issues, to live in the corporate world. And I wanted to start out something new for myself, a new career, a new business. And I looked into my portfolio, I looked within to see what I had that I could easily put out into the market. So having gone through the assessment process by myself, I figured out that going in the e-commerce food line was the best way of getting continuous cash flow in order to pay my developers. For any tech company or anyone in the tech world will know the engine is getting developers. And very good developers don't come cheap. They're very expensive. If you then venture into making an application or a system that isn't recession-proof, then you're in trouble. So in 2016, I remember when I decided that, yes, it's definitely a Jamia I'm going to create that. At the time, I think was 2016, I actually coined that name. I started looking and doing my own research on how best to be able to execute this. And with all the experiences I had, I went to a lot of seminars, conventions, exhibitions, just trying to understand the market and get enough data to understand what's going on in that space and how I could be of use in that space.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. So you've got the tech skills, you've got the developers, you're looking into the food market, and you mentioned the reason you did it was because it's recession-proof, right? It's also pandemic-proof.
Yeah.
Food will always sell. But why African food stuff?
So the real reason here is, yes, it was recession-proof. I believe it was a two-edged sword, something you can either make you or break you, right? Even though it was recession-proof, there was the big obstacle in the way, which was when you ask yourself, why hasn't this been done? The reason is because when we look at the industry as a whole, comparing the African food industry to the other parts of the world, we are way behind where they are. A traditional African manufacturer focuses on his own audience, which is usually people local or people around their vicinity. They don't think of expanding their markets to others far away. There's this conversation I was having with one of my colleagues the other day, which I told him, look, if you go any parts of the world, it's easy for you to find the Chinese food, the Indian food, the Italian food, but getting African food, you have to look for a real specialist, go to, different places. It's not out there.
It's not widespread.
Because we've not done a great job at pushing that out. Obviously, things are changing right now way faster than it has ever been. I think we're at the best point now, and I believe we should be going higher. With the emergence of the music industry being exported out, people now want to know more about our culture.
So the African music industry.
Yeah, the African music industry. People now want to know more about our culture, our food, which is one of those things that we can easily use to tell our stories and make people more aware of what we do. And the reality is that a lot of the African products are extremely nutritious and organic as compared to some of their counterparts out there that is heavily processed.
Yes.
So you don't get as much nutrients as you get from the ones from Africa.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And on this point, which you've made, that it's, we don't tend to advertise, or we don't tend to be widespread in terms of exporting the food and the food culture to the rest of the world. Could the issue be that, and before I go into that, we started to see this sort of acceptance of African food, especially West African food, all the way from North America to even Korea. I've seen people eating fufu and egusi soup, and all these influencers are gone to the bandwagon, and it's being received very well. The African food is nutritious and delicious, like you mentioned. But is the reason why we haven't really pushed it out that far is because we are protective about it. We don't want it to go out there and be diluted and become something else. Is that what you found with when you're speaking to some of these people in the food industry? Or is it just that, like you said, we're just, okay, we know our audience, we know our market, we stick with the 5% of people that will buy from us rather than, okay, let's tweak this thing a little bit to go out into the audience? What is the problem here? Is it a marketing issue? Is it a visibility issue? Is it a cultural issue?
It's a combination of a lot of things.
Yeah.
First and foremost, I'll use a quick example here. In the UK, you go to a lot of the Indian restaurants. You see chicken, tikka masala. You see a lot of vindaloo, a lot of chicken, or a lot of Indian foods. Yeah. To my surprise, when I visited India a couple of times some years back, I realized a lot of these foods weren't there. In fact, the ones I was mentioning, I was seeing a variant of it, the more traditional food in India.
Yes.
So that got my mind thinking, how did that food then become what it is in the UK? It's as a result of localizing the food to the palates which you want to target.
Yeah.
So if you look at the African food, first and foremost, within the African continent itself, we have several names for the same food.
Yeah.
So you go to Uganda or Zimbabwe or Tanzania, and they have the maize meal, and they all call it different names, from ugali to iwita to whatever. You come to West Africa, you see it as semolina. You go everywhere, and it's the same food but different names.
Yeah.
So one quick thing here is, in order for us to be able to make sure the food industry has the light of day, we need to look at our individual communities and see how well we can present that food in such a way that it's not that threatening for anyone who wants to try it out and see what's all about.
So you think that it's the presentation and packaging, how we present it to the world in a way that's maybe a bit more palatable, but we don't dilute the actual food. It still has its cultural integrity.
Absolutely. The packaging is one of the key things I see in a lot of the small startups that I deal with. Some of them I mentor. I look at their products, I look at their packaging, and quite frankly, take for instance the plantain chips. Some of these guys come to me and the product is brilliant, it tastes absolutely great. However, the packaging is something that if I say mixed up with the Walkers and the rest of them,
it doesn't stand up in the international market. It's it's like mom and pops, very rudimentary.
And the first question, once I ask them, why is the packaging? Oh, my people know my product. I don't need to advertise it. I don't need to put a label on it. The best I can do, put my logo so they know that it's me. And I'm like, no, that doesn't work.
That won't scale.
Exactly. You only be selling your 10 boxes a month over and over again and never.
So let me get this right. So with the way Ojamia works, the tech platform is kind of your main distribution channel from a wholesale retail point of view. But you source these products and you bring them in from different producers, but you're also mentoring some of them and helping with the packaging in terms of presenting it to a global market. And to that effect, you've brought some products here which you've worked with. Do you want to share some of the stuff that you guys do, and the distributors you work with, and what's different from like you said, the mom and pops who just stick a label on it and we're ready to go?
So we've been working with a lot of manufacturers out there. Some are 3-4 people, family startups, and all of that. We've also been looking further afield to look at those that are out there that are doing very well and, bring them into our sponsorship programs. We've also been trying to figure out which ones best fits our profile, of which we have something called Ojemia Finest, where we look for the best of the best products, which we put on that platform in order for people to make it easily accessible for people over different demographics to try out. So I think I brought some here in the studio.
Sure.
I've got the chin chin.
Yeah.
This actually made from Canada.
Yeah.
And we have different flavors. We have cookie dough, we have strawberry, we have, there's coffee as well, the coffee one. So they've been, there are various ones.
That's new. Chin
we can
coffee.
we can open it and try it out.
Yeah.
Also, we've been working with a few other manufacturers that brought some very interesting, innovative products, such as the Zobo, which is the hibiscus.
So Zobo I've never seen it bottled this way before. I would probably walk past it in a supermarket thinking it's, I don't know, some sort of Western drink, because Zobo, for those who don't know, is a hibiscus drink. It's made with hibiscus, pineapple. It's fantastically famous in West Africa, Nigeria, where I'm from. This is the stuff. And usually it's just poured into a plastic bottle and we drink it that way. But this is looking very classy, I must say.
We also have the Chapman.
Okay, so Chapman, which it's not necessarily African, but we
West African, actually.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it our recipe or we just adopted it? Okay, so Chapman again is something that just comes in a glass and you kind of mix it at home. So looking at it in this beautiful bottle is this is beautiful. I like this. This is sort of I see in the supermarket and it catches my eye. And you definitely want to try it out if you haven't. And all of this stuff is organically made?
Yes, most of it. And even looking at the normal staple foods Nigerians usually, like the white curry. Look at this packaging.
Okay, yeah. This is, So this, for those who don't know, if you're not from Africa, it's cassava. So it's ground cassava. And it's a staple meal that goes with soups. So if you go into any African West African home, you're going to find this, and usually this just comes in a nylon bag. It doesn't have this sort of packaging. Okay, and so you're working with these brands to essentially get them to be international market ready.
Absolutely. In fact, there is another brand which is called Chombids from Nigeria.
Yeah.
So they're doing the native jollof rice. Right. Everything is packed in there. It's exactly like Uncle Ben's. All you have to do, everything. The palm oil, the spices, everything is in that bag.
It's all in there.
Which makes it very, very easy for anyone to cook. I think they have like 3 or 4 different product ranges, including the coconut rice as well.
Okay.
Which makes it very, very, very easy for Nigerians and non-Africans really to try it out. Something you just open it up, put it in the microwave or put it on your stove and you cook it without having to spend 5-6 hours in the kitchen trying to prepare a meal.
Okay. Fantastic. So, I mean, this all looks lovely. And it's like I said, from what I'm looking at here, most of these things can stand toe-to-toe with any sort of international brand in terms of the branding and the way it looks. So is this part of the driving passion that you have to bring African food manufacturers to a level that everybody globally can accept?
Absolutely, because if you look at the ecosystem, each and every one of these products here has a story to tell. And telling these beautiful stories and making people understand where this food has come from also not only improves the products or the brand, also helps economically back home.
Yeah, give back.
So if I look at this, I've got products from Rwanda, from Zimbabwe, from South Africa, from all over, from Nairobi. The key for us is if we can, once we get these products up to a particular market standard that is scalable, then it's very easy for us to scale these products, scale the sales of this product to new territories, new markets, new target audience. And in return, it gives the foreign investment, the foreign exchange investment, most of these these challenged communities get this funding back, and then they can put that back into their business to improve their capacity and improve their product quality.
Fantastic. Thank you. I mean, I'd love to hear, I love hearing this. So I think my next question is around your journey into all of this. This couldn't have been easy for you to build up the logistics. To building the tech platform is one thing. Finding the food producers and manufacturers and convincing them to get on board, and then selling this to the general public. I know you delivery bike and stuff like that. So there's a whole ecosystem that you built over the course of this journey. What was that journey like? What were the challenges you went through? What were the issues that happened? This is the real. This is what I want to hear.
The journey was very, very interesting.
Okay.
Extremely interesting.
You sound very modest about this.
More than you can ever read in a book.
Okay.
A lot of norms and things that you think you've been able to figure out over the years easily changes by the strike of one thing. So from 2016 to 2019, we're putting everything together, doing the research, finding out the volumes and all of that malarkey. We went live at the end of 2019, started doing friendly user testing, and January 2020 we started delivering to people. Obviously, over the years we had looked at different concepts. We had tried to borrow certain solution methods from the UK, from the US, and all of that. We'd looked at eBay model, we had looked at Amazon model, but by the time we take those models and put it down here in the UAE, we quickly found out that there were a lot of cultural differences and norms that we could not replicate those systems. So we had to go back into a design mode to figure out, okay, first things first, why don't people buy food online, especially Africans?
Yeah.
Why do they go to the shops? A lot of the times is because they go to the shops because they want to look at the product, they want to feel it, they want to smell it, taste it. So that told us there was a quality issue. That was a primary factor. And a lot of people wait till the very last minute before they make their purchases. So as Africans, one thing that we decided to put in our ecosystem is we have several vendors and distributors selling on there. But we've come to an agreement, and we've now been able to build a database of records and data that we can use to predict stock levels and all of that. And at the same time, we've been able to look at a product and see how best we can market it and push it into the market to see how the take-up ratio is going to be. And also making sure that the products in itself gets to the customer right on time. What we've also done is rather than having a warehouse, we have a warehouse which you call a sorting center, which has a customer care. We have a call center in there. Every product before it goes out to the customer. So you can go on to ojamia.com and buy 20 products. It might be coming from 8 different vendors.
Right.
But it's just one delivery charge because everything comes into our sorting center first. We do a QA before we send it out to reduce the amount of quality issues that might happen. The product in itself might be great, but because of weather issues, high temperature or whatever it is, transportation issues, by the time it gets to the customer, the product has lost its quality. So we tend to first do our own QA internally before we send it out. So making the customer more relaxed and build the confidence for them to buy online.
Okay, cool. So it sounds like your challenges were just
the challenges
logistical or technical stuff. What about
everything.
The mental, emotional side of things?
It was logistics. We had issues with that. We had technical issues. We're still having it till today. I mean, even the biggest of them, IT companies always have.
You have to keep
but most importantly, it was also understanding the cultural and customer behaviors. So over the years, we've moved from a 2 to 5 day shipping timeline to a 24-hour or 4-hour shipping timeline, because customer behavior now is they want something and they want it now. If you tell them, oh, wait 48 hours, you've lost a customer. So we're also evolving, trying to catch up with the big multinationals out there that can do deliveries in 30 minutes.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so you work with these brands in terms of getting the packaging right and getting them to the market. How important is marketing for your business? How important is it to market Ojamia and get it out into the world? And how do you market it?
That's a very important question. So over the years, we've tried various forms of marketing. Initially, we believed in doing just digital marketing, but very quickly we realized we were not getting the return on investment on the advert spend. And we had to very quickly look at cheaper and alternative means of improving this, such as printing flyers, sponsoring events, looking at our target market, target audience, looking for high areas of where they're concentrated and going in there and doing some serious campaigns in order to the acquisition cost of the average acquisition cost of a customer is quite high.
Okay.
And with the UAE, as we all know, over 85% of the residents are transients.
Yeah.
Usually within 2 to 3 years before they leave, sometimes even within a year. So by the time you're spending $40-$50 acquiring a customer, only for them to leave within 6, 8, or 1 year, it's cost the business the baseline. Okay. So it's a continuous thing which has to be done. However, as the world begins to go more techie and a lot more people get more of their referrals online, we are gradually moving away from just using flyers, distributions, and all of that, and also started TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and the rest of it. Yes.
Okay. So you localize with your marketing where there's a high concentration, and then you're broadening it out eventually using digital marketing at some point.
Absolutely. We're doing that. Yes.
Okay, cool. So, I think the next question I have is, so what does the future hold for Jamia? What's your 5, 10, or 15-year plan?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, when we started off with Ojamia, we had narrowed down over about 12 or 15 revenue channels that we're looking at. We particularly focused on the foods first because we believe if anything was going to be successful, that was going to be successful. Then we're already into the hair and beauty side of things, where we're selling hair extensions, hair foods, shampoos, and the rest of them. We're also going to be looking at services as well in the nearest future, whereby you can send money back home. You can do money transfers, you can do entertainment, get your media contents, your African movies and the rest of them on the platform. Okay. So there's a long array of things, even including logistics. Okay. So I buy a new TV today and my existing TV, I want to send it back home, wherever. You can easily go on the marketplace because it's meant to be a marketplace. But we couldn't spread ourselves too thin everywhere. So we focused on the areas that we found that we can get quick wins and build a platform, and gradually we'll be scaling it up on different platforms.
I think that's the way to go, especially if you haven't got tons of money lying around to build out everything at once. But you build one thing, stabilize it, and move to the next one and scale it up. And so that makes sense. Okay, fantastic. So we've come to the final section of our session today. And this section is called, sharing your wisdom. And I have 3 questions for you. The first one is, what's the most surprising thing that you learned about yourself in your entire journey to this point, building Ojamia? The second question is, what do you consider to be success? What is success to you? And the third one is, if someone is starting out in the food industry like you've done, especially with the African food market, what advice would you give them? So question number one is, what's the most surprising thing you've learned?
I knew I was patient initially.
Okay.
But going through setting up ojemia.com and all the challenges that has been thrown at the organization, I didn't know the level of patience I had.
Okay.
I've had to endure that. So many times I felt like quitting because I felt betrayed. I felt, oh, why are these people going after me? Several times our websites have been having issues, which were deliberate issues, by the way. And several things that have happened over the years, even people trying to hijack the platform, or cloning the website and running all sorts of things with different people. So sometimes you'll never know what's in you until you're being put to the test. So I would say patience is one of those things I didn't know I had that much of it.
Okay.
Because there were many times I was really frustrated and wanted to quit. But I just had to calm down, think about the overall mission, think about how long and how hard I've worked on this. And I say, okay, you know what, let's go.
Yeah. And sometimes you focus your efforts on the things that you can control, the things that you can influence, and find a way to work around the things that you can't.
Absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. And the second question is, what do you consider to be success?
For me, there's a proverb my dad always says, one tree cannot make a forest. So the way I see everything is the ecosystem. It's a norm for a lot of the African farmers not to get any form of acknowledgement or benefits from the hard work they do. And success for me is seeing every puzzle, every part of the ecosystem having some form of reward for what they're doing. So I'm happy when I see products like this making it onto the center stage and everyone on that channel, on that revenue ecosystem has something to show for it. It actually makes me happy in the sense that finally this is happening and this is going to better lives.
So for you, success is using the abilities that you have with technology to give back to the community, to the ecosystem of farmers and producers.
Absolutely, to the entire community, because everyone benefits when things go well.
Yeah, fantastic. I know it's so important with like African farmers and food producers getting that recognition, because they often don't. There's foods that are eaten across the entire world. So if you take chocolate, for instance, 60-70% of the cocoa that is grown for huge chocolate brands to create those chocolates that people eat every day, or even teas that they drink sometimes more than water, is coming from countries like Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana. But people don't know about it. So it is great to see that they start coming to the front in terms of the contribution that they make to the world, and the story goes across the entire continent.
Absolutely.
So that's really great. I love hearing that. Bringing recognition to those who actually deserve it, especially if they've been so forgotten for so long. So I think my final question is, what advice would you give to someone else who's probably wants to start out in this industry? Who may be finding challenges or who doesn't know where to start? What's the one advice that you would give them?
The first one I would say is understanding your market and understanding first and foremost who you are and what you want to do. If you don't get that right, every other thing you will get wrong. So understanding yourself so you understand what you are there for and what you want to actually achieve. Then understanding the market is very, very important. Many a times I dived into trying not to do the job and getting the experts to come and do it. And very quickly I realized that even some of the experts don't know that particular market, because most of our most decisions these days are being made by data. It's data driven.
Yeah.
And if there's no data, then it becomes guesswork.
Yes.
So if you're just starting out and you want to do something, always try it out, keep your mind on it, keep pushing it, keep thinking about it. It doesn't matter whatever it is, you keep analyzing. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't talk to other people. Collaboration is one of the weakest things that affects businesses. If they don't collaborate, a lot of people are reinventing the wheel.
Okay.
Right? There are some things that is already on the market.
Yeah.
So rather than reinventing the wheel, take your energy and channel it somewhere else that needs the support. Collaboration is key.
Okay. So essentially, you get to know your market and know what the
Absolutely.
value that you're going to bring into that market. So understand the local problem and come up with maybe a local solution. And then talk to other people, collaborate, see if someone is ahead of you and, someone is already doing it, and see if you can work with them or even just talk to them, get advice rather than just going it alone.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Tim, thank you so much for coming today and sharing these lovely, lovely products. I know there's a story behind each one, which we don't have enough time to go through, but it's great to see the work that you're doing within the African food place. And, kudos to you. And thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for having me on.
You're welcome.
Thank you.